Do you worry about spoiling your baby? Are you concerned that your young child will come to run you and the household? And are you being careful not to be a permissive parent? So the big question is this: how do we navigate through the mountain of overwhelming, often contradictory, and sometimes false parenting information we find online? What parenting information should you believe and apply, and what should you reject? That is the big question, and in this podcast, we will help you understand what underlies your child's behavior and explain how to react in a way that favors your child's optimal development. I'm Alexandra Scherzer, and welcome to the Wise Parenting Podcast. After having heard our podcast and read our posts on social media, we've received quite a few questions and requests from parents to elaborate on certain topics related to the importance of meeting their child's needs. They seem to fear that in meeting what we've defined as their child's needs, they will be putting their child on the wrong track for the future. So today, we'll go over 3 of the main questions we've received. Here's the first. Won't I spoil my baby if I do whatever she wants?
The answer is no. You won't spoil your baby if you do whatever she wants because, in fact, babies under a year old don't have wants. They only have needs. For now, I'll simply say that you can't spoil a baby under a year old. And when she is under a year old, the more you respond to your baby's needs, the more you increase your chances that your baby will be easier to get along with later on, that she will be more compliant, more agreeable to your suggestions. Let me explain further. People have different definitions of what spoiling is. For some parents, spoiling means that the baby will grow up to have habits that they won't want her to have in the future. For example, sleeping in their bed, crying until she gets what she wants, carrying her when she wants, refusing the food that they're offering her, crawling where she wants, touching what she wants, etc. And for some parents, spoiling means these habits and more. It means she will also grow up to be someone you wouldn't like her to be. For example, as a child, she will be rude and obnoxious, and they will have no control over her. And as an adult, she will be a nasty and demanding person who feels she is entitled to special treatment and who thinks only of herself and no one else. None of these eventualities are related to parent-child interactions during the first year. And I'll say something here that I'll get into in further detail throughout this episode, that there is a great misunderstanding out there. Generally speaking, many parents don't know that it is by meeting the baby's needs that she will grow up to be a pleasant, accommodating person who thinks of others as well as of herself. Just the opposite of a generally held belief. It is by intentionally not meeting her needs, sometimes for fear of spoiling her, that she grows up to be exactly the person they don't want to have raised. The parent behaviors that some people consider spoiling are actually responses to the baby's needs. And especially when she is under a year old, the better you meet your baby's needs from the baby's point of view, the more you increase your chances that your baby will be easier to get along with later on and not be rude and obnoxious and expect special treatment.
So for a more in-depth discussion about how responding positively to your baby's needs leads to the best outcome for her development and your family relationships, listen back to episode 13 and 17. In episode 13, we take a close look at attachment. We look at how your parenting determines your child's type of attachment and how her type of attachment lays the foundation for all her future relationships. If your goal is to raise an independent, competent, intellectually curious, and sociable child and adult, then this is an episode you can't miss. In episode 17, we take a close look at the first crucial stage your baby will go through. We look at why it is crucial and the important role that your parenting plays, because this is when she will lay the foundation for a strong sense of identity and her personality to come. If your goal is to raise a child who becomes an adult who has the ability to establish positive relationships, feel that people are generally kind and helpful, and feel that she can trust herself to get others to help her achieve her goals, then be sure to listen back to episode 17. So here's the second question. Won't my child end up running the house and me if I follow her lead when she's so young? And there's a different answer to this question depending on the age of your child. So let's start with babies, and I'll rephrase the question for babies. Won't my baby end up running the house and me if I follow her lead?
I'll say that your baby has no intention or interest in running the house currently or in the future. Babies simply do not have the neural connections in their brains to run you or plan to run the house. Otherwise put, babies cannot link your comforting them and responding to their needs to running the house. As I've said repeatedly throughout our podcast, there is an important difference between needs and wants. Needs are physiological, like being fed and kept clean, and they are psychological or emotional, like being stimulated, soothed, and comforted. Your baby is expressing needs. When you respond to her needs, she feels comforted and secure, and comfort and security are what she seeks. In responding to these basic needs, you are not setting yourself up to be dominated by her. She will not develop expectancy that you will do everything she wants when she's older. In fact, she is more likely to be pleasant and agreeable. It boils down to the same answer as I just gave for parents who feel they will spoil their baby or young child.
And now on to the third question. It's the same as for babies, but for young children. Won't my child end up running the house and me if I follow her lead when she's so young?
Despite what your young child may appear to be expressing, she is counting on you to make important decisions for her and to take care of her. She has no interest in running you. She wants you to take care of her. She has zero interest in being in charge. It's understandable why some parents may think that their child is trying to take over. Her behavior, especially during the second and third stages of development, may look as though she is trying to run you, but she really isn't. Parents generalize their 2.5-year-old's insistence on making some decisions to her wanting to run everything. She doesn't want to run everything. She wants to make small, individual decisions. In the no stage, the second developmental stage, she may want to make many, many decisions, but she's counting on you to make the big decisions. Honestly, she knows deep down that she cannot survive unless you make the big decisions. For instance, she doesn't want to get into her car seat because she feels constrained in it. She doesn't want to eat the snack you prepared. She wants to be the one to choose the color cup she will drink from. She wants to choose which stuffed animal she sleeps with, etc. It may seem that she wants to take over in general, but she really is trying to make small, usually very unimportant decisions. As I said above, she has no concept of taking over and running your lives and the household.
So the fourth question has to do with permissive parenting. We recorded a 3-part series on parenting styles, one of which is permissive parenting. To hear greater detail about parenting styles, listen back to episodes 6, 7, and 8. To hear more about permissive parenting in particular, listen back to episode 7. So here's the question. I don't want to be a permissive parent. Won't following my young child's lead turn me into a permissive parent? Let's start by talking about why parents associate this permissive parenting with misbehavior.
Where permissive parenting gets a bad name is when parents fail to prepare their child for living in the society in which she belongs. For instance, they let their child run around screaming in a restaurant. They let their child take over playtime without guiding them to do this in a polite fashion. They let their child enter a friend's home and open the fridge without informing them that this is not an acceptable thing to do, etc. I don't think I have to give further examples because I think that most people know what this kind of permissive parenting looks like and why it's viewed so negatively. And I think that these negative connotations are what have parents on high alert to not take steps toward becoming permissive parents. Unfortunately, what happens is that parents, out of fear that their child will behave like those children, they end up parenting more rigidly than they should. Not only that, but some parents would like to allow and encourage their child to make more small decisions. They see the benefit of allowing them to do so, but they lack the confidence, and their fear overcomes their desire to encourage their young child to make more small decisions.
So those are some of the negative associations that parents make with permissive parenting. So what is permissive parenting?
We discussed permissive parenting in some detail in episode 7, but today I'll go into a common misunderstanding on the topic of permissive parenting. From what I've seen, there are 2 kinds of parenting that are often called permissive. Here is the first kind: true permissive parenting as it is described in the literature. These permissive parents expect their child to learn to be self-disciplined without their using discipline. Discipline here means expectancies, rules, regulations. It does not mean punishment. They let their child decide whatever she is capable of deciding with little or no interference. They are nonetheless protective of their child and will not let her get into danger of any kind. They are also warm and loving. I've just described true permissive parenting, and now I'll talk about what is often seen as permissive parenting, but is not permissive parenting at all. It is actually uninvolved or negligent parenting. These parents, at first glance, may look like permissive parents, but they are really emotionally detached from their children. For example, when you see a child really misbehaving at a park or in a public place, such as pushing or hurting another child, and her parents not reacting or correcting her, you probably will think this is a permissive parent. The chances are higher this is an emotionally detached, uninvolved parent. Similar to permissive parents, they let their child make most decisions. They don't discipline. They don't have rules and regulations. But they are different in that they let their child make decisions that may be dangerous for her or dangerous for others. They are also different because they aren't warm and loving. They are uninvolved. They are negligent. So if you're concerned that following your child's lead and answering her needs will turn you into a permissive parent, then I hope I've convinced you that this is not the case. And when you see a child pushing other children out of line to the slide with no parental intervention, or when you see a child being destructive with other children's toys with no parental intervention, know that this isn't the result of her needs having been met. In fact, it's likely the opposite. Her needs were not met. Her needs for guidance and or discipline and or love were not met.
So you've just addressed a common misunderstanding that responding to your child's needs can lead to permissive parenting. Let's talk a bit more about this.
Following your young child's lead in the way that we've described throughout our podcast episodes with Dr. Solomon's wisdom and in the Wise Parenting Academy does not lead in any way to permissive or uninvolved parenting and their consequences. It's a different ballgame. Responding to your child's needs is not a style of parenting. Your parenting style is your overall pattern of child rearing. It is the way you generally interact with your child across the board and is not defined by how you answer her needs. You can have a generally authoritative parenting style and respond to your child's needs, and you can have a generally permissive parenting style and respond to your child's needs. So responding to your child's needs doesn't define your parenting style and doesn't make you a permissive parent. Allowing her to make small and unimportant decisions is neither permissive or uninvolved or emotionally detached parenting. Allowing and encouraging your child to make small and unimportant decisions is one of the many ways that you respond to your child's needs.
I hope that our answers have given you the courage and confidence to respond to your baby or child and answer her needs. This episode was really directed to parents who share the concerns of those who sent us these questions. Parents who want to give their child her best shot at being her best self, but fear that meeting their baby or child's needs will spoil her and turn them into permissive parents. If you are also concerned with the questions and the answers we addressed today, then remember that you can't spoil a baby under a year old. In fact, the better you meet your baby's needs, the more you increase your chances that your baby will be easier to get along with later in life. When you respond to your baby's needs, she feels comforted and she feels secure. And comfort and security are what she seeks. Babies cannot link your comforting them and responding to their needs to running the house. If you have a toddler or preschooler, they are also not interested in running you or running the house, despite their essential need to make decisions. They have to make small and basically unimportant decisions in order to end the second and third stages of development with the best outcome. And as a last point, don't confuse meeting your child's needs with permissiveness or even negligence. Some parents will have more reservations about meeting their child's needs and therefore have more difficulty doing so. We talk about this important topic in episode 22, where we look at how this difficulty is related to how they were raised, the relationship with the child's other parent, and their current life situation. Nonetheless, if you want to raise your child to become an independent, competent, intellectually curious, and sociable child and adult, then interact with your baby and child in such a way that she feels that you are meeting her needs. We hope that you found today's podcast helpful. Come say hi on social. Our Facebook and Instagram accounts are @DrSolomon'sWisdom, all one word. You can subscribe to the Wise Parenting Podcast on any podcast app, including Spotify, the Apple and Google podcast apps, or wherever you listen. Parenting advice keeps changing on us, depending on what you read and who you listen to. This is making parents feel like they're doing a bad job. And worst of all, many parents today don't know who to trust for what is probably the most important job they'll ever have. So if you're the parent of a young child and you would like to feel clearer, more confident, and more at ease about your parenting decisions, then the Wise Parenting Academy can help you get there. With on-demand access to foundation lectures and seminars in digital, print, and audio, as well as exclusive one-on-one guidance from Dr. Solomon, the Wise Parenting Academy is the perfect next step to building the best long-term outcomes for your child. Come check us out at thewiseparentingacademy.com. Thank you for listening, and we hope you will join us again.